YouTube. Eric DIY here along with Maddie.
Yeah, because my bike has a hole in it.
Because we have a problem with her tire, which is flat. It looks like the stem actually ripped out of the tube. So we have to get that out and replace it with a new one. First step on her bike is to get rid of this screw and the other one on the other side to take off this little frame for her seat. And then we have to get in here and take off the back wheel. Just take a screwdriver and we're going to unscrew this and also the other one on the corresponding side. Okay, just be careful because that will fling forward a little bit. We got to do the other one on the other side. Now we have both of these disconnected. And what they have is on this Huffy bike, which is just a kid's model, you just have to get a hex wrench socket in there. So we got a 14 millimeter socket. We're going to use a ratchet and we're just going to lefty-loosey. And we're going to take out this bolt right here. You might have to hold the back wheel a little bit. It's a little snug like it should be. So lefty-loosey. And also, this is where the training wheels went when they first got it. But she doesn't need those anymore. She's pretty good at biking. So I'm gonna get this bolt out of here. We're at the very end here, so I'm just gonna do the rest by hand, but you can see that's just a little hex bolt. And that is the main stem right there. So I'm gonna take a picture of where this is though, so that way we know where the wheel is aligned. And that's why I didn't do the other side yet. The reason why you wanna know where the wheel was, if it's too loose, the chain's gonna fall off when she rides the bike. And I have another video on that where we realign this so the chain doesn't keep falling off. So just make a note on where this hex bolt was. Same thing on this side, just another hex bolt there. So we're gonna use the same 14 millimeter bolt and take that one off, lefty-loosey. Once you get that bolt loose, it's pretty simple, but they're gonna torque it down pretty well because again, they don't want the back wheel to fall off. And Maddie's looking through her wheel. Good thing to do before we loose up the back wheel is this chain is probably gonna fall off or at least go down. So we put some paper towel, because we're doing this inside because it's cold out and it's nighttime. So we have preparations to not get grease all over the rug. Now on Maddie's bike, to get a better idea of what we're dealing with, we're also going to take off this little plastic covering. It's just a screw right over here that we have to loosen up. And there's another screw over here to take off this chain guard. Now we can get the underneath access. We're going to have to take the chain off. We can get the back wheel. We're going to push it in towards the front of the bike. And you notice that the chain just got really loose. And that should let us take the chain off. Have something underneath if you're doing this indoors. That chain is greasy. There's another thing on the other side I gotta show you. And then the wheel will come right off. Now on Maddie's bike, we have another screw here. There's a metal piece that goes onto the back wheel. So again, we wanna make sure that we understand that this piece has to be connected back here. And just takes a screwdriver right here on the screw to undo it. And again, if you're ever in doubt, take pictures of what you're doing before you do it. So, you know, have a picture of the screw. But that's just gonna loosen this up, so we can take this off the frame. I'll do the rest of it off camera. When we pull that screw out, it has a little nut on the back of it. So just make sure you have both parts. And then this should loosen up to get off the guardrail. As you can see, I'm already pulling it up and off. So there's a bracket there too. That other piece is gonna stay on the wheel for now, but make sure that this bracket, you know the orientation of it, and that the nut goes on the back and the screw goes in the front. Don't mind the dog rolling in the background. We're gonna take the wheel off now. Now when we pull this off, the chain's gonna get stuck on that little thing there, and we're gonna try to get the wheel out of the chain. But again, have paper towels underneath, catch the chain, so that way you don't get oil anywhere, especially if doing this indoors like we're doing. Here we go, extricating or taking off the bike wheel. We pulled it all the way back, but you see that the chain's caught on there. We're just gonna carefully wiggle it out over the paper towels. And it should eventually come off. There you go. But notice that the chain went right onto the paper towels, and we're gonna have to lay the bike down somewhat. And now we can work on the tire repair. Just remember, this is the side where the chain goes, and the other side with this bracket is the other side. So just remember, when you put the tire back on, this is gonna go, if you're looking at the bike from the rear, on the right side of the bike after we fix the tire. People like on Amazon said this was pretty good. This is the Appleby bike inner tube, 16 inches, and it fits tire width of 1.75 to 1.25. To find out what you need, you wanna look on your tire, and if you notice, this says 16 times 1.95. So that's the size of the inner tube that you need. and this cover is 1.75 to 1.25. And you also want to make sure that the valve is the same thing. Schrader valves are usually what you find on a lot of bikes, especially cheap ones like this, kids' bikes. All that means is that the valve looks like, that's a Schrader valve. It has a little thing in the middle that you can push down and the air will seep out. So if you have some airlift in the tire, it shouldn't happen if it's broken like mine, but you just put a little mini screwdriver in there and push that little stem down and air will come right out of the tire. At this time, you want to take the cap off because eventually the stem's going to go inside and the cap will kind of stop it from going through the hole. Inside the Appleby bike inner tube kit, we got the 2-tube kit, which is nice to have in case you have another problem, you have an extra one. It also comes with 2 caps for the Schrader valve, and it comes with wheel removing tools. So we'll try using theirs. I have my own, but we'll try using this first. And the directions to replace a tire on the back. We already did number 1, remove the wheel from the bike. And then we're gonna use the thin end of the tire lever. We're gonna pry the tire from the rim. So that's what we're gonna do next. We're gonna use both tools. I'm gonna use the thin part here, and this should keep the tire rim out, away from the rim. So just put the first one in there and just pry this out slowly. You can see that it's clearly getting off now. That's one side, and then it's gonna pop right off. We can just lift it right off of here. Get this clip out of there. Now, you've got the tube on the inside of the tire. So we're just gonna get it off this rim by prying it off carefully without destroying anything. And there you go. That's how you take the tire off the rim. Now the other thing you want to do after that is you want to look on the inside. These are where your spokes go. So you want to make sure that there's nothing coming out through there. There should be no metal objects or anything sharp there that can break the tube. Ours was a air valve problem. So this is where the air valve does go. And if I look at the tube on the inside, to the hole on the valve, that's what was leaking. So we need a whole nother inner tube. The next step is to insert the Applebee's new inner tube, starting with the valve, and align it inside the rim. So they put an elastic band on that. I'm gonna open it up, and it's gonna go around the rim, but we wanna find that hole again, which is right here. And that's where the stem's gonna go. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to put the stem in there first, and then have the inner tube go around inside the rim. You got a little handheld inflator here. Just inflate it a little bit. You could always take the air out after if you had to, if you made a mistake. Let's get it around the rim. The most important part of this, we're gonna dry fit it at first, but it's to get the tube in there. So we might have to release air. That was just to get it around the tire and make sure that was gonna work. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna release some air, push that little downspout here. There you go. And then we know it's in there. And we'll keep doing that until we get one side of the rubber on a side. Now we can use our tools to help us again, but we want to be very careful about not ruining the inner tube. So that's why it's good not to inflate it the whole way. And we're just gonna pry it on there and get it on there. So now that we got a bead in there, it's looking pretty good. Gotta get this side in there. And you're just gonna stretch it over. And again, if you have to deflate anything, deflate it as you go. But looks like I overinflated. So get the tire in there. That's what matters first. Main thing is make sure that tube is not going to be pinched by anything. And even if we just get that tube in there, that's the beginnings of all of this. So just don't ruin the inner tube. If you get the lip over, that's what matters the most right now. So, but you don't want to pinch the tube. There we go. That's why the tools are meant to slide. We're almost there. Got this side to go on there. Let's make sure the tube stays in the channel. Make sure it's in the channel, not the rubber. You don't worry about the rubber tires much right now. Okay. Got it. Looking pretty good. All right. Now that we got it in there, we just have to make sure this part of the tire goes on the inside without pinching the tube. There we go. This is one side, we gotta do the other side after. Okay. So one side's in. Let's get the other side. It might take a little bit of patience to get it in there. But you can clearly see that it's starting to go in. Make sure that the other side does not leave the inner side. And there we go, it's a very flat tire. So now that we got the rubber tire on, we made sure that we're not pinching anything. Make sure that tire's in the middle. Now we're gonna inflate this to whatever it says on the wheel. And on here it says inflate to 35 PSI. So it doesn't matter on the size, it matters what they want the PSI to be. So I'm gonna attach this. This stem is gonna be free flowing. So just don't tug on it big time, just a little bit to get it out of there. Attach your pressure here. And then we'll set it for 35 and it should blow up to 35. While we're inflating, we're making sure that nothing got pinched, by the way. So I'm keeping a hand on the tire and I'm looking at both sides. Finishing up to 35.0 PSI. And the tire is good, not leaking at all. All right, gotta put the tire back on now. All right, remember, the gears are gonna go on the right. This part's gonna go on the left. And we're gonna install it on the bike. Just get it on there first. And you're gonna push it in as far as it will go. So that way we'll grab the chain over here, which is oily and greasy, by the way. So just get used to it, your hands are gonna get dirty. And we have to put it on the bike wheel before we put the bike wheel on. So let's move that back a little bit. We'll get this chain on the gears. Okay, let's get it over there on this side. And then we push the tire back in and get it on the gear and where it needs to be. Okay, and make sure it's also around the wheel over here. That way the chain's on there. And then we're gonna align it. You will need 2 people for this, by the way. And we'll put it all the way in because the chain fell off that side, so we're gonna have to get it back on. It looks like I'm gonna have to take this chain guard off, so let's take the chain guard off. All right, now you notice that the chain is back on the wheel, the way it should be, and on the wheel back here as well. But it's very loose because we gotta pull this wheel back to make it tight. And this is where we're gonna screw it in by holding the wheel back and tightening bolts on there. All right, we do have to put this part back on because the back dowel seat has to be attached to this after. So we're gonna make sure that this is going on the right way and that the hole for the screw for the dowel holder is here. And then we have our hex bolt. We're gonna get it started by hand, hopefully. And we're gonna get this on there. But again, we're gonna have to pull the back wheel backwards in order to get this to be tight so it doesn't fall off the bike, and it has to be aligned at all times. I'm gonna grab our socket wrench and we're gonna tighten this up. By starting with our fingers, we know it's not gonna strip any threads. And again, this is a 14mm bolt. Now it was torqued down pretty tight, so make sure that it's just tight enough for now. We're gonna have to pull the wheel back one more time to make sure this chain still really stays on there. We're gonna do the other side now. And this side as well, again, making sure that that hole is up. And these little pulls in the back actually go in the grooves here, so make sure they're in the grooves. Try not to strip threads when putting this back on. Okay? And our main goal is just to get the bolt back in. Again, starting it by hand, so that way we don't strip any threads. Righty, tighty. Okay, I'm gonna tilt the bike back. All right, and then make it a little tight. Now, if for some reason the chain falls off, it means you gotta loosen these up slightly on both sides. Pull this tire back and make sure that the chain stays tight. If both bolts loose, we're now going to reattach this little side attachment on the bike. And you'll notice that the wheel is moving around a little bit, but we just want to attach it here. Again, using the nut in the back. And then this screw, this smaller screw, in the front. So you're just reattaching it the way you found it. This screw was the worst screw ever. Look at it from the front, your eyes pointing this way. And when the screw's through, try to get that bolt on there with your fingers and then screw it right in. And we're gonna really force this tire back and tighten the bolts again, just to make sure we have this really well. Maddie, hold the bike and pull it towards you, dear. All right. It's one side, and then the other side. Pull. But if the chain comes off, I showed this in another video, you gotta pull this tire back and tighten up really hard on the bolts. And they were pretty tight, so I'm not saying go all out, but make sure they're on there tight because you don't want the wheel to fall off. All right, let's put the chain cover back on. I'm gonna put the hole over the pedal. We're also gonna fit this part in here. And then there's just two screws. There's one that goes underneath on the other side, but we have to get this little part over on the other side. So you gotta stretch this over the chain and make it fit. Then this has to fit over here. So here's the first screw right here. We just tighten it up on the bike. The chain guard, we have one more screw back here. Okay, to attach the chain guard, we're gonna use this flat, small screw that goes right here. So make sure you keep track of your screws. They're a lot the same, but this one's a little different. This one's a small one. We're gonna reattach the dull seats. You're gonna use these long flat screws there. Make sure that the hoop's around it and just tighten it up. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. Make sure the chain is really tight, okay? Pushing this back wheel back and tightening these up. And now that we got the side rails attached on both sides and the chain is taut, we're gonna put the dust cap cover on the schrader valve. And that's it. The tire is fixed. How's that, Maddie?
Good!
All right, we can ride again. That is how you fix a tire when it's gone flat. You replace the inner tube. I'll leave a link down in the description below for the inner tubes we used while fixing this bike. They are very good from what I'm seeing right now, but time will tell. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, please give us a thumbs up and push that subscribe button below. While you're down there, also push on the bell notification icon so that we'd be notified of future Eric DIY video releases. We appreciate all your support. Thank you, and have a great night.
Bye!
As always, if you like this video, found it useful, please subscribe. And if you have a product that you would like reviewed, please contact Eric by emailing him at eric5150diy@gmail.com. Have a great day.